The Suns are done with Bradley Beal as they are desperately trying to find a team that will take him in a trade right now. 2 years after acquiring him from the Washington Wizards, it's clear that this situation has become a disaster. It will not work. They sabotaged their own team in the middle of the season to try and make it work, and it's over. Bradley Beal will not be playing for the Phoenix Suns this season, and this is not news. They tried desperately to move him at the trade deadline. A large part of their midseason plans revolved around Bradley Beal. They threw a little bit of Kevin Durant trade speculation in there as well, but Beal was at the center of everything. They tried to bench him and others to try and make him unhappy, to try and make him want to go elsewhere. They tried to move him in a possible Jimmy Butler trade, and then once that wasn't a possibility, they started looking at trading Kevin Durant. It is clear that Bradley Beal is not in their future plans, and they've been setting up for moving him this offseason, going all the way back to the trade deadline, because they made that weird trade with Utah that's probably going to be a disaster in the long term, but ultimately is probably going to help them move Beal this offseason, where they traded their own first-round pick way on into the future in exchange for 3 first-round picks from the Utah Jazz. At the time, we assumed they were going to use those first-round picks to try and talk a couple of different teams into taking some of their assets. They did use one to dump Yusuf Nurkic, and now they've got some left to try and trade away Beal. And given everything that's happening with the Suns right now, they just hired a new coach. The Kevin Durant rumors are all over the place. I think people have mostly forgotten that not only is Beal on the team, not only do they want to trade him, but it's going to be pretty difficult to do so this offseason. It is clear that the Suns' new plan is they have the new coach that they hired. They want to move forward with him, Devin Booker, assets from an eventual Kevin Durant trade, and not having Bradley Beal on the team. The problem is, and the question is, who's actually going to take Bradley Beal away from the Phoenix Suns? Right now, he is under contract for 2 more seasons for over $50 million per season next year, and then a player option the year after. I would assume he's going to pick that one up. And this is why his contract has largely been viewed as one of, if not the worst contracts in the entire league over the last couple of seasons. But of course, that's not all of the reason. The biggest reason is the fact that Bradley Beal has a no trade clause on his contract. He signed it when the Wizards re-signed him a couple of years ago, and it goes with him to each of his new teams. So when he went to Phoenix, he kept the no trade clause. When he goes to his new team, that no trade clause is still going to be there, which means 2 things. One, it makes it that much more difficult to trade Beal because the new team knows that they are then going to be locked into potentially the worst contract in the entire league. So they're not going to be able to get out of the Beal situation either if it goes poorly for them. And it makes it even more difficult for the Suns to trade him because they have to send him to a place that he approves. They can work out a Bradley Beal trade. They can find a team around the league that is like, yeah, we'll take Bradley Beal for whatever the trade is. And then they have to go to Beal and say, hey, do you want to play for this team? And if he doesn't, then he's not going to get traded. He has veto power on every single trade that they bring him. And we already saw in the middle of the year that he is perfectly content to stay in Phoenix, even if nobody likes him, even if everybody's unhappy around him. He doesn't care. If it's not a situation he wants to go to, he's not going to decline his no trade clause, which is the most difficult part about the entire situation, not only for Phoenix, but was the craziest part of Washington re-signing Beal to the contract that they did a couple of years ago. They offered him like $200 million over 5 seasons. They didn't have to put the no trade clause in there, and they did it anyway. So having said all those things, what are the options right now for Phoenix? What teams would actually take Bradley Beal in a trade? Well, the first thing that needs to be established is the Suns are not getting anything in exchange for Bradley Beal, at least not anything valuable. This is not a situation like even what Washington got a couple of seasons ago from the Suns, where they got some pick swaps and a couple of second-round picks. Like, that's not happening here. If you're the Suns and you're this desperate to get rid of Bradley Beal, you're going to have to attach something to him to get a team to take him, because he's not a positive asset on this contract. There's no team around the league that's going to look at Beal and say, hey, we'd like to add that guy to our team, to this roster under the contract that he's on, especially with the new rules in the CBA and how expensive teams can get very, very quickly in this new era of the league. So you're going to have to attach something to him. With that in mind, here's 2 semi-realistic kind of maybe possibilities for Bradley Beal trades. The first team that came to mind for me was the Miami Heat for a couple of different reasons. They've got the salaries that can work here in exchange for Phoenix, a couple of expiring deals, and I could see Miami thinking that Beal is a guy that could actually help them a lot offensively, potentially work within their team. Obviously, you still have Tyler Hero there, who's extension eligible, by the way, but for them, they've got some expiring contracts, and Beal's only under contract for 2 more seasons. If they can get something in addition to Beal, they probably feel like they can pull something else out of him, and they're looking for talent upgrades any way they can find them. So the concept would be Beal, a first-round pick this year, 29th overall from Cleveland, and Denver's second-round pick going to Miami in exchange for the expiring contracts of Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson. As I said, for Miami, you're replacing 2 guys in your lineup that you're not all that excited about in the first place. Yes, you add the Beal contract, but it's only for 2 more seasons, and you get assets in addition to that. And if you're Phoenix, you get a couple of guys that might be able to play for you. Terry Rozier's been terrible for like the last year and a half. Duncan Robinson's always been an up and down guy, but you get out of the Beal contract a year early, you add 2 expirings, and Rozier and Robinson might actually play for you a little bit, and all it costs you is a late first-round pick and a late second-round pick. If Phoenix got this offer tomorrow from the Miami Heat, I think they would absolutely say yes. They'd be fine giving away a first-round pick. They'd be fine giving away this Denver second. Getting out of the Beal situation a year early is exactly what they want to do. I don't even know if Miami would do this. I don't know if any team around the league would do anything in exchange for Bradley Beal without getting multiple first-round picks back, which the Suns just don't really have access to. Like, technically, they have 2 second-round picks because they got them in that Utah trade, but I'm imagining they don't want to trade both of them just to dump Beal for basically nothing and nobody. But this is a semi-realistic option. And again, keep in mind, this is a situation that Beal would potentially want to go to as well. It's hard to look around the league and say, oh, Utah, Charlotte, even Washington, teams that have cap space, teams that would be willing to take on Beal and get some assets back. Beal has to be willing to go there as well. Even if they say they're going to buy him out, they have to figure out a bunch of stuff before he even agrees to go. But I think right now, he would potentially think about going to Miami, even though that was a possibility that was discussed and ultimately declined at the deadline in exchange for Jimmy Butler. Now, if you're attaching some other stuff and the Heat are in a different situation than they were at the time of the potential Butler trade, maybe the Heat would be interested. The other team I mentioned here, and this is not realistic really, but I'm going to put it on screen anyway, is Beal going to the Clippers. Like, maybe the Clippers see this as a potential talent upgrade for them. They get the same pick compensation that the Heat got. You'd probably have to put the other first-round pick in this as well to even get the Clippers to answer the phone, because Norm Powell has to be involved. His contract has to be there, and he's really good. He had a good year. I would rather have Norm Powell on my team right now than Bradley Beal, straight up. But then you have Bogdanovich, Chris Dunn, Eubanks, again, those guys have to be there for contracts. They don't want to trade Chris Dunn, but it's a number that has to be there. And then you get the future picks as well. That doesn't seem realistic to me. The Heat one seems a little bit realistic, but the bottom line is we might be approaching a situation here for Phoenix where they genuinely cannot find a team that would take Bradley Beal that he would also want to go to. They might just have to negotiate a buyout with him. They might just have to cut the guy just to get him off the team, get him away, because they're not really going to get anything out of him anyway. And the reason for that, the main reason at least, is the no trade clause. There are teams around the league, Brooklyn comes to mind, a couple of teams come to mind, that if you are offering Bradley Beal plus a first-round pick in exchange for expiring contracts, they would do that deal. They would take on Beal, potentially buy him out, whatever the case may be, to get the extra draft asset. We've seen that structure of trade work for years for players that are on contracts similar to Beal's. The difference is the no trade clause. Finding a team that wants Beal, that he also wants to go to, is nearly impossible, and that's the situation that Phoenix has put themselves in by adding Beal in the first place. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll find a team for him, but right now, this is a very strange situation for a team in Phoenix that already has a bunch of different things they're juggling this offseason. The Beal situation is just continually getting weirder.